party or parties, if you have other people witnessing, they cannot be related to the persons that are named within the document. Anybody who benefits from the document, also, you don't want to even put a potential conflict of interest, what it's called. You do not even want to put a potential conflict of interest in it. So that means boyfriends and girlfriends witnessing, or friends witnessing. You will want to get an outside third party, not related to the document, nor to the parties that are involved.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions about that maybe I can get back to Sonita with, or was it everybody kind of understood it? Mm-hmm. All right. So before before she starts, we're going to go ahead and just take a few minutes and go ahead and get some refreshments, okay? So that y'all can nibble and kind of listen. So if y'all want to, y'all can just go back and grab whatever you want. There is a microwave in the kitchen if you need to heat something up. And we'll go ahead and get started. Just after that, I don't have our tripod, so I'm going to try to figure out how I'm going to do this. Hmm? Sit on the table right now. Yeah, come on.
I got what I needed. Okay, that's fine. Tomorrow is okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Bye-bye. Does everybody have something to write with and write on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hello? That's the reception phone. His name is for, she's gonna come forward.
Early that day, we don't have a lunch that morning. Y'all welcome to stay if you don't want to.
I'm in a class and okay. Okay. It's gonna be so messy with that new hire. You know how you can. She's gonna take him to
Okay, again, so we have one of the best attorneys ever, because this was a struggle to find an attorney that would give up their time selfishly to come and speak to the community, but she did volunteer to do that, so she's going to go ahead and do her presentation now.
Okay, so good morning everybody. So my name is Michanna Tate. I am an attorney here in the upstate. I've been an attorney for 10 years. People always think I'm 25, but I've been an attorney for 10 years, and I didn't even go to law school until I was 27, so I did not around 25 years old. During my 10 years of being an attorney, I've handled every area of law except bankruptcy and immigration. But everything else I've done, I was in private practice for 8 years. For a year and a half, I was a DUI prosecutor for the Highway Patrol. So I've handled probate, written wills, power of attorneys, all that great stuff. So I know what happens when it's wrong, right? Because a lot of times you don't find out that there's a problem until the person's already passed away and the will is no good, or the person's in a coma and the power of attorney is no good. So it's really important to make sure that things are done right and in order, because by the time you find out they're not, it's too late. So we're going to talk about, do you need a will? This does include information about probate. And believe it or not, I'm not going to tell you everybody needs one, because everybody doesn't. Depending on your situation, depending on how you're going to leave your assets, you may not need one, because the law, we have South Carolina law that defines what's going to happen to your property. And sometimes people write their will exactly the way that the law would have given it anyway. So for everybody, will's not necessary. If you are an only child, let's say your parent wants to write a will, they're going to leave you everything anyway. You don't need one. That's what's going to happen. So everybody doesn't need a will. I'm not going to tell you that. I will say I think everybody needs a power of attorney. Sometimes that can be more important than a will, actually. Okay, first question, does everything go to probate? No. Sometimes people seem to think it does. Life insurance does not go through probate as long as there has been a beneficiary name. If you have a beneficiary name and that person has passed away, please change your beneficiary. You can do that. If you don't, your life insurance proceeds are going to go into their estate and maybe controlled by somebody you don't even know. So please make sure you know life insurance policies, they pass outside of probate. Sometimes family members think they're about to get something. You're not a beneficiary of that life insurance. That doesn't go to you. They get really upset about it. Bank accounts. You can make your bank accounts payable on death. You just go to the bank and you tell them who you want it to go to after you die. Because sometimes people don't want anybody's name on their account while they're living, so you don't have to do that. You can make it payable on death. You do that, guess what? Your bank accounts are not going through probate. The creditors can't get to that money because it didn't go into probate. So there are ways actually to get around wills. We've actually had some people pass away in our family, and we did things prior to their death where we didn't even have to go through probate. So, wills go through probate, but there's other stuff you can do. Real estate that is titled as joint tenants or vital survivorship. A lot of times husbands and wives, that's how their property is titled. It could be sibling. But if it's titled joint tenants or vital survivorship, on the death of one of those people, it automatically goes to the other person. Doesn't go through probate. It's also possible to do a life estate deed. That means there's two people on the deed. One person has it for their life, meaning they get to live out their life there if they want to. They still can get the 4% taxes. Nobody can put them out, because sometimes people will put their parents out, believe it or not. That does not go through probate. When that person passed away, the property automatically goes to whoever the remainder is on the deed. Vehicles. You can title your vehicles if you own them with another person. Instead of putting "and," you can put "or." Then when you pass away, it automatically goes to the other person. So probate sucks. I'm just going to tell you that. So there are ways to get around probate. Sometimes people don't want to go through probate, so they say, "I want to create a trust." You can do that. Please know if you don't want to pay a couple $100 for a will, you're not going to get a trust because they cost about a couple $1,000. And also, you got to have a trustee who's going to take care of it. Sometimes people think they don't have a good person to name as their personal representative, so I'm just going to make a trust. You still need somebody. Quite honestly, some people don't have anybody. They know their children ain't going to do right. They don't have anybody in their family to be that person, and they think they can get around that. You cannot. I had a client, he actually recently passed away. We tried to write his will for 5 or 6 years, and we never could write it because he knew his children, and all of them were a hot mess, just to be honest. His friend that he wanted to originally name as first representative passed away, and then he didn't have anybody, so we never got to write it. And he passed away while we were. Okay, so what happens? So if you die without a will, that's called intestate. So you have no will, your estate goes through probate. And it is going to go based on South Carolina law. So there's this idea that if you don't have a will, all your stuff's going to go to the state. That hardly ever happens. Everybody has a cousin, a third cousin, or somebody. You have other family members. It will go to them. I think I'm good. I'm loud enough. Okay. It's going to go to somebody. One of the things people need to make sure they're aware of, if you are separated from somebody, I don't care if you've been separated from your spouse for 20 years, you have no will, guess what? They're getting some of your stuff. And people get upset about that. It is dangerous to stay married. I mean, if you want to be married, that's great, I'm married. But if you've been separated a long time, get divorced. I just finished an estate earlier this year. The husband and wife have been separated for 20 years. He passed away, and he was getting, you know how the state says, you may have some money available. Or the people that raised him had left $17,000 in a bank account. Now with his wife, wasn't related to them, had nothing to do with them, didn't even have nothing to do with him when he died on his deathbed. She got that money because they never got divorced. Okay, testate. Testate means you have a will. You die with a will. But your estate still goes through probate. Some people think they're going to write a will, so make it easier. Process is still the same. It's just that you get to decide where you want your stuff to go. Still going to go through probate. Still has to stay open for creditors to file against the estate. If you and your family members do not agree, it's still the same amount of paperwork. And I have learned if there is a nickel, there's going to be a fight. Your assets are conveyed the way that you desire, exceptions. If you write a will and you're like, I'm not going to include my spouse. We've been separated 5 years. They're still going to get something because it's called omitted spouse. They're still going to get 30%. Same thing for a child. You can't just leave your child out. They can file as an omitted child. What you can do, you can put in there specifically why you're not leaving them something. So I did a will earlier this week. The woman's contemplating a divorce. So we put in her will that she left her husband $1. And she did that because she's contemplating filing divorce. You have to put in there why you're not leaving them something. I did a will a couple weeks ago. One of the, I think it was her child or maybe her grandchild, is alcoholic. So she put in there that she wants to give, this child or grandchild this, whatever it was, but the other, her other daughter is going to hold it for her unless she becomes sober. I mean, that's what we put in the will. You have to put a reason why you're leaving certain people out, otherwise the law is going to give them their 30% or whatever it is that they're owed based on the law. Okay, so what I'm showing you is what happens if you don't have a will. Because remember I said everybody doesn't need one. So if you are married, you don't have any children, and your spouse is still living, if you die, everything's going to them. They're getting 100%. Okay, let's say you are not married, but you have children. Based on South Carolina law, everything is going to be split equally between your children. I don't suggest this. When there are multiple people on real estate, it is a problem. I don't care if you think they get along. It's not going to work. You need to pick one child. I'm sorry, stop trying to be fair. It causes a legal nightmare. Pick one child, the person who can pay the property taxes, the person who can keep up the property, and the person who maybe is going to let their siblings live in the house, right? Because some people are just going to sell it right away. So, leave it to the child that you know is going to do right. But South Carolina law is going to cause it to be divided like this, which ends up being such a problem. I do partition cases where there are 20, 30 people's name on the house. It's a mess. And nobody usually wants to clean it up because guess what? It's expensive. If you write a will and you're going to write it and you're going to divide everything between your children, you're asking for problems and you might as well not write a will. Okay, let's say, you can't even see my one half, but let's say that you are married and you have children. South Carolina law is going to give your spouse half of everything, and the other amounts are going to be split between your children. So I just put up 3, but of course if you have more than that or less than that, you get the point. So the spouse will get half, and the children, the other stuff will be split between them. Once again, doesn't matter if you're separated, spouse is still getting that. Okay, this slide may be a little confusing because I'm going to try to explain it because when you are not married and you don't have any children, your stuff's not going to the state. We have certain steps that we look at. So number 1, you can see the little 1 arrow. If you are not married and you have no children and you pass away, your assets are going to go up. They go up to your parents, so your father and your mother. If both of them are deceased, it's going to go out. So that's where you see those number 2. So it's going to go to your siblings equally. If your siblings are deceased, then it's going to go down to your nieces and nephews. So some people have a whole bunch of siblings. Some people, have lots of nieces and nephews. You can see how when it comes to real estate, it can end up being split between a whole bunch of people. And not only is everybody not agreeing, everybody's not going to split the property taxes. They're just not. The other issue is, what if you have somebody who has a lot of debt? They have creditors that have filed against them, have judgments against them. Them creditors, they can file against the property. They can foreclose. So this idea that we're going to keep this property in the family, I'm going to be fair and split it between everybody, that is dangerous. If you know somebody's going to have good credit and they got judgments and liens against them, do not put their name on any property. I don't care if they're your favorite child. Don't do it, because they're not going to have it, and then people are going to say, they took our land. Nobody takes anything from you. Not preparing properly is the problem. So just it gets me all riled up, because then they come to the attorney to fix it and don't want to pay the money to fix it. But here we are. And this is three generations behind. I have to sit down with clients and look at, draw the family tree, figure out where is this person alive, what state do they live in. I mean, it's a lot. So if you set it up right, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, you won't be here anyway, right? You'll just be it's a mess. Personal representative. So in the state of South Carolina, the person that handles your estate is called your personal representative. Sometimes I can tell if somebody got a document from Staples, like Sonita said, or just printed something off, because they don't even use the right terms in the document. We call it a personal representative. In other states, they call it an executor. So that's what we call it here. If you have minor children, you can name a guardian in your will. However, please know, I don't care if you haven't seen the other parent of your child in 10 years. They are going to be the default. People are like, well, they don't do anything, they don't help. You can't take the child away from them. They're going to be the default guardian. Now, if they don't step up to the plate, you can name a guardian in your will. So that's what a lot of people do. They name one in case the other parent doesn't do what they're supposed to do. Godparents. This is one of my pet peeves. Everybody wants to name a godparent. They want to post about the godparent on Facebook and everything else. Mm-hmm. The court doesn't care who you said was the godparent. If their name's not in a will to name as a guardian, they're not getting that child. So that irks me to no end. That's not going to be an automatic thing. Gotta put this stuff in legal documents. A trustee, I already talked about that. You can do a trust, still gotta have somebody take care of it. So the trustee, if you had a trust, would have basically the same responsibilities as a personal representative. I have seen those go wrong too, because the trustee didn't want to divide up the land between everybody. So now it's a mess. So gotta pick a good person that's actually gonna do what's in the document, because the only way to force them to is to go to court, right? You made a trust to get around probate court, but they don't do right, so now we're in probate court. So it all comes down to making sure you make good decisions on who is getting what. Step parents, step children, step siblings. The law in South Carolina changes on these. I swear, at one point it changed every 2 years. Step children do get, it's part of your assets, or they don't. So to be careful, if you want to leave a step parent, a step child, a step sibling, something, you do need a will. That you don't need to leave South Carolina law, because who knows, they may change their mind tomorrow. Right now, step anything doesn't get anything, but 5 years ago they did. So if you want to make sure that they do get something, you need to write a will. Okay, these are some true-false questions. A will makes sure you don't have to go through the probate process. That is false. Still got to go through it. The probate process is going to take a while. People get upset because it takes so long. Well, it's going to take at least a year, because the estate has to stay open for 8 months for creditors to file against the estate. So that means those last hospital bills. I even had an estate where Circuit City credit card, they filed against the estate. Circuit City's been closed for how long? They're going to come out the woodwork, and then y'all may not get anything because they got to pay that old Circuit City credit card. So you're still going to have to go through probate. There is a way to get around that. So I'm talking to a lawyer is great. Sometimes people they want to get something so bad. As soon as somebody dies and they get the death certificate and the obituary, they run and open up probate. Well, if you wait a year, creditors don't have 8 months to to file against the estate. So maybe you should be a little bit patient and just wait. And in South Carolina, you do have 10 years to open up an estate. So it doesn't have to be done tomorrow. You don't have to do it immediately. But if you do it after a year after the person has died, you don't even have to worry about that. So you don't have to worry about the credit. I already said this, you must still wait 8 months for creditors file against the estate. That is true. Sometimes the court will say you don't have to pay it. So, for example, that Circuit City credit card that was in Spartanburg County said, don't worry about it. We're not even going to make you pay that. But they could have said we had to pay it. It's completely up to the judge. I can control everything that happens with my property after I die. That is false. People want to put in their will, don't sell it outside of the family. There's no way to really enforce that. I'm so sorry. Or if they argue, they don't get anything. There's no way to enforce that either. There's only so much you can control, from the grave. So pick one person. Like in my family, that's me. Like even on life insurance. My uncle passed away. He's one of originally 11 children. I was a beneficiary, and I didn't even get anything. I just knew who to give what. If you have that person, it's easier to just pick that one person. If you don't have that person, you really got to sit down and figure it out. It may not be a family member. Let's just be honest. It may not be. Getting a will online is just as good as one that is written specifically for you. I do not use templates. I write them specifically for you. I have to add paragraphs and take them out and change wording. Now, could you possibly get one and it works out? It could. But you're gone now, so what are you going to do if it doesn't work? I've had people I went to high school with, they called me, they said, well, my grandmother had a will, we took it to probate court, but it's not good. Didn't have the correct amount of witnesses, so guess what? She died without a will. That doesn't count. If it's bad, it's like you don't have one. Also, gotta have the original. Y'all don't know where the originals are? You don't have a will. You used to be able to record them, take them up to probate court. They will record it for you until it was on record. I never liked that because probate court is public record. You can go look through anybody's file if you want to. That's how people start sending out those letters when somebody dies and asks for, do you want to sell this property? It's all public record. So I never liked that somebody will file their will. Somebody just go read it. I didn't like that. But they will not, at least in Greenville County, they will not record a will. So where is the original? Do not put the original in a safe deposit box, because that's a mess to even have the bank give you access to it. So make sure you put it somewhere in the house and the person who needs to have access to it knows where it is. You don't necessarily have to give it to them, but just tell them where it is so they know where it is. Okay, what do you need to create your will? A bank account. Everybody, we don't know where all your bank accounts are. Maybe you got accounts at 5 different banks. That's how stuff ends up being held by the state. So when I write wills, I specifically put in what banks where that money is. Sometimes it's not a physical bank, right? Sometimes it's one of these online banks and nobody would ever know, possibly, you had an account there. Real estate. Some people own several different pieces of real estate. They own their house, maybe they have a rental property. So I specifically put in the will, the address, the tax ID number, tax map number of the real estate. Vehicles. A lot of people have multiple cars. Include that in there. And children or grandchildren. This is kind of funny, but I have tried to write wills or do deeds, and they want to leave it to their child or grandchild. Usually they can't even spell their grandchild's name. Please make sure you have the correct spelling of everybody's name. They can tell me what it is. They'll say, how do you spell that? I don't know. Okay, well. Nothing we can do about that. I need you to know how to spell their name. I need you to know all your grandchildren. Because, right, you know your son may have a whole bunch of them. If they find out about this estate, they're going to go file as an omitted grandchild, right? It's crazy. I've had cases where everybody knew it was their child, but because the parents never married, they got along, so they never went to family court. There was never a court order about who was the father. Even that's a mess, because now the court wants you to prove. We have letters from all the aunts and uncles saying that was their child. And they still were like, nope, we got to have a hearing. They had to have a whole hearing on this child that looked exactly like his daddy. Everybody knew that was his daddy. So it can get, his dad didn't have a will, so it can get interesting. Okay, so this is showing you, I have a will worksheet. When people say they want a will, sometimes I just let them come in and we have to talk about it. It's best if they fill out their information beforehand. And I'll be honest with you, because I don't know, this is about, 6, 7 pages. I will give people this will worksheet or email it to them. I never hear from them again because they don't want to sit down and figure out what they want. If you don't know what you want, I don't either. Right. What you want me to do? So here's your basic information. What is your name and address? Because your estate's going to be probated usually in the county that you live. For some people, they live in one county, but they own property in a whole nother county. And so sometimes you have a choice of where you probate estates. So like if I had a choice between Greenville and Spartanburg, I would choose Greenville because Spartanburg probate court is so slow. Oh my goodness. I had money sitting in my trust account, I don't know, for like 2-3 years, and just because I was waiting for probate court to approve my numbers. And the family, some of them, really thought like I had just went off with the money. Like, first of all, it's in an attorney trust account that is monitored by the state of South Carolina, and I can't do anything until probate approves it. So if you have a choice, pick the bigger county that's faster. What is your spouse's name? Sometimes people write down the spouse that's really not legally a spouse. We don't have common law marriage here in South Carolina anymore. Also, it's not automatic. You don't just live with somebody for 20 years as their common law spouse. There's other stuff you have to prove. So I'm dealing with one now where come to find out they were never married. Well, he's no longer in the picture. Personal representative, secondary personal representative. You need an alternate. What if that person passes away, isn't able to do it? What if they don't want to do it? So I always have people name an alternate, but sometimes they don't have one. It was hard enough for them to figure out the first one. They don't even have the second one. Who are your children, the names, and the relationship. And normally the table has several sections. Please know how to spell. Real estate, like I said, some people have multiple pieces of real estate, and so I have them fill that out. What is their fractional interest or percentage? So if somebody owns a house with their siblings, like how much of that house do you own? You may own a third, a fifth, a half. How much do you actually own of that property? Because you can only convey what you have. So that's how properties end up with a whole bunch of people. What is your personal property? Sometimes people want to pick every little piece of jewelry, where it's going. I don't suggest that, but I do put it in there for people that want it. Leave it to one person and tell them who to give it to, because it's just a mess. Vehicles, like I said, if you have multiple cars, make sure you list them. Another reason it's important to have somebody who's actually going to specifically write it for you. You may not have the same car when you pass away now, right? So there's language that we put in there to make sure that it conveys whatever the vehicle is, or vehicles that it conveys properly. Bank accounts, like I said, you need, put down where your bank accounts are. Who are they with? Because when you pass away, we may not know. And I certainly won't know. So if you don't know, I won't know. And monetary wishes. So sometimes people have large amounts of money and they want it split a certain way, so you can put the amount and who you want it to go to, and then you can actually specify like what bank account it's going to go to. Come from. So sometimes people have multiple bank accounts and they leave one account to this child, one to this child, or so on and so forth. When you're thinking about money, whoever the personal representative is, they can get paid for being personal representative. So they can get 5% of the value of your estate. So that person does get compensated, if there's money to be compensated, for their for doing all this work and going through probate court, because it is definitely work. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can see my phone number and my email address. Email is always best. But I will tell you, after 10 years, I am semi-retired. So if you call me about something, I may probably give you the name of some other attorney who can handle it if I am no longer handling it. Does anybody have any questions? And I did bring business cards. You have a question?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say, I was talking about before, like, I'm in a situation where my sister just passed away 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we took up care of her, all that's done. or they also. Now, my parents are elderly, and I'm living in the house with them, and it's paid for, but what happens then?
So if your parents are elderly, her question was her parents are elderly, she's living in the house with them, what's gonna happen? So I would suggest doing a life estate deed. Since your parents are elderly, they will have a life estate, meaning for their life, even if they live to be 130, they are in that house, nobody can put them out, they still get the good 4% tax rate, less taxes.
But the only, okay,
Go ahead.
I think it's already been changed over now, but I wasn't sure. It was in my sister's name before she passed. And so that's, I think now it's under my dad's name.
Okay.
As far as the property is.
Yes.
In the house. But on what you said about life estate, how many years, there's something about years involved in this, right?
No, not with the life estate deed. However they live, however long they live. So if it's in your dad's name, you can put your mom on there too with him. They both have a life estate. And then when they pass away, it can go to you or whoever else. So you don't have to go through probate. You just take a death certificate up there to County Square or to in Powdersville, whoever handles real estate property, and you let them know the person has passed away, and they will automatically transfer it. A lot of times, they look at the newspaper, they already know. I've gone up there to give them a death certificate, they've already transferred the property to whoever it's supposed to go to.
So I need to go to get a life estate deed, and you said go where to?
So, to do the life estate deed, you need an attorney to do that. But upon their death, you would take the death certificate to whoever handles real property for that county.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Like, I have a minor child and her father was like on the birth certificate non-existent. So like if I want her to be cared for by somebody else, so how would I have to go to get him sorted? Do I have to get him to sign over his rights or something like that?
No, believe it or not, just signing over your rights is not simple. You have to go through family court to do a termination of parental rights, and a lot of times they will not approve it unless somebody's stepping in to adopt that child. So like if there's a stepfather who wants to adopt the child, South Carolina does not like leaving children legally with one parent. So that's likely not going to happen. If he's not going to step up, or if he's not going to, you need to have a will and name a guardian for her. Because, you know, you can't erase them. So default would go to him, but if he's not going to step up, just name a guardian. And when you name these guardians, make sure they know that's what you want. Because I had a case where I got a phone call, and this woman was unmarried. She had adopted a daughter, and she named her friend as the daughter's guardian. Well, the woman passed away from cancer, I believe. That friend did not want that responsibility. So now this child, which is already sad because the child got adopted, not as an infant, but as an older child, so she's already been displaced. She was adopted, and so one of my friends, her and her husband, they're like second or third cousins. The child lives with them, and she has a great life now, but that friend did not want that responsibility. Make sure you name somebody who wants that responsibility. Another thing, when you're naming these guardians, make sure you pick somebody who can care for your child. It used to be like, I'm just leave the child to my mama or my cousin. Maybe your family members are the people to leave the child with. I see a lot of times people are picking friends who are financially able to raise a child, financially able and have children the same age as your child. Because, I mean, you know, let's just be honest, everything costs a lot of money. If you leave this child with somebody that doesn't have the money to raise them, I mean, that's going to create a certain life for them. So a lot of times lately, I have not seen people leaving them to their family members. Pick the person who wants to raise that child and who is capable of raising that child. So name a guardian. That's what you need to do. And also, if you're going to leave your minor child any real estate, you got to name a trustee. It can also be that same person to hold their property for them, and they're not going to get rid of it, right? You got to be somebody you trust that's going to hold it for your child, you know, until they're 18, because they can't own anything unless they're 18. Somebody's going to talk about life insurance, but do not leave minors as beneficiary on life insurance.
I don't
another
think
thing.
they do it. I'm like, we're not doing that. 18 over.
Yeah, it's a mess, so I'll let her deal with that. But don't do that.
Following on her question, let's say you name somebody as a guardian for your child. What if the parent has semi-legal rights, has been non-existent for years, and then upon your death they decide they want to take care of the child? What happens then if you've named a
They
guardian?
take care of the child. They're that child's parent. They take
So it
care of the child.
automatically defaults to the parent even though
Yep.
you named it?
Yep. It defaults to the parent. I know people get so upset. I'm like, well, I mean, that is that child's parent.
I have a question. So my husband and I, we're raising our older two grandsons. They're 11 and 10. If we pass away and we have permanent custody through the court, what happens?
So if you have permanent custody, their parents were never TPR. They never terminated their parental rights. So those are their parents. So it would default to them. If somebody has been TPR through DSS or something else, that's not legally their child anymore. But just custody, they're gonna go back to the parents.
That's good. I don't, Okay. I was just curious, because we're talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, Lord, I don't want my boys to be floating out there to somebody we don't know.
Yeah, they'll go to their Wow. No, because I'm thinking
Because my sister has custody of my niece. Because both the parents in the school, DSS and everything like that. So I was just wondering how that's gonna work. So that's the reason why.
I'm dealing right now with an adoption where the child can't go back to the parent because we have one parent that's still on drugs and nobody knows who the biological father is. So now, 10 years later, now we're doing an adoption. The people that have had him all this time, they're doing an adoption. So that may be what it comes down to.
So just to clarify, so if you leave a child to a guardian, but then a biological parent shows up. Okay, so if the biological parent is unfit, will the guardian stand at that point?
If the parent has been deemed unfit, usually by DSS, they're probably going up in family court to fight it out if that parent wants to. And then the court's going to have to decide, they're going to look at the previous order, see why the parent lost this child, and it's going to end up being in family court, something decided.
Well, the guardian would have to fight to keep the child.
Right.
Even though the guardian was named in the person's will.
Right, because, wills go through probate court, then you got family court. They're two separate courts when it comes to minor children. Probate and family court kind of have to, be friends.
That's tough.
It is. It is.
I didn't know.
So can you get like an attorney, like say that person, no, I know I can't, my lifestyle that I live or whatever. If they can go and say, that they don't want the responsibility of that child?
Yeah, they don't even have to tell anybody they don't want the responsibility. They never, pop up, the guardian has a child, it's not gonna be a problem. The only problem would be if they try to fight it. But if they don't pop up at all,
Okay.
Okay, I don't want to take everybody else's time.
No, that's just my
You're welcome. Thank y'all. Like I said, I do have some business cards y'all can get later if you'd like to.
Thank you. Definitely gonna get it in my book. I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna write books, that's right. I ain't got much, but I'll be right. All right, so next we are going to have Miss Stacy Gary. She's gonna talk about advanced directives. Y'all give her a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Ms. Julie just said, my name is Stacy Gary, and I have 26 years in healthcare, long-term skilled nursing facilities. So I'm going to approach this from the medical standpoint. Everything we just heard before I got up here, absolutely correct, because I see it in the healthcare realm all the time. I think most of you that came in, you should have gotten 2 packets from me. One labeled Declaration of a Desire for Natural Death, and the other is Healthcare Calendar Furnished. I was asked to speak about advanced directives, and that is just what the words say, advanced directives
these documents give you an opportunity to give directives or make some healthcare decisions, hopefully before you actually need them. And so the state of South Carolina recognizes 3 advanced directives. One is that living will, better known as the Declaration of a Desire for a Natural Death. The other is a healthcare power of attorney. There's also a document I did not give you called 5 Wishes that I'll touch on, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, and it's an awesome document, but it costs to get the actual document itself. Again, the theme of our day is taking the burden of decision-making off of your family, your children, your loved ones, and especially when it comes to your medical and healthcare decisions. The most difficult time to make a decision about your advanced directives or your medical decisions is when you're in a healthcare crisis. So, of course, that's not what you want to do. And someone shared with me before that less than 10% of us will probably lay down, go to sleep, and not wake up. Most of us are going to require some type of medical intervention before we die. So with that being said, the time to do your advanced directives is now. Does not matter how old or how young you are. Because again, I see people a lot younger than I am coming through my healthcare facility. So what we're going to do today, we're going to start with that living will document or the Declaration for a Desire for Natural Death, and these are the actual documents. I wanted to give that to you because hopefully something we say here today will spark you into action. So you have the actual documents. You can make copies and share these with family members or loved ones. That living will, and you can go through it and look at it, and I'll be happy, I'm informal, so I'll be happy to answer questions as well when we get through it. But the living will tells your doctor what your wishes are in 2 instances. Those 2 instances are if you are permanently unconscious or if you're terminally ill and close to death. Those are the only 2 instances that living will covers. Permanently unconscious, we need to understand the definition of that. The definition of permanently unconscious, your body may be functioning, but your brain is not. 2 physicians have basically determined that you are brain dead. And with that being said, that document then kicks into effect. This document, as you can see, there's some things you go through. You put your name, your information, the date you're executing it on, the county you live in, and it is good for the state of South Carolina. We've already mentioned making sure your documents are for the state you reside in. And again, you see an option A and B. If you're terminally ill and death will occur in a reasonably short period of time, what do you want? Do you want nutrition and hydration be provided for you through medically implanted tubes, those type things, or do you not? That's the question for those 2 instances. You either want hydration and nutrition or you do not. And medically inserted tubes, surgically inserted tubes, that could be anything from an NG tube that goes through your nose to your stomach to feed you if you're unable to eat. It could be a TPN, which is like an IV that's feeding you and hydrating you through your veins. It could be a tube feeding, which is a surgically implanted tube that goes direct in your stomach and it bypasses the swallowing mechanisms if there's ever any issues with that. So that's basically the decision you would be making in those instances. Just those 2. That's all that document covers, so I don't want there to be any confusion about that. If you look down towards the middle of page 2 of that document, this document does not allow you to appoint a person to make healthcare decisions for you, but there is an optional section. And you can appoint an agent to either enforce this document on your behalf or to revoke or cancel this document on your behalf. And I'll be honest with you, like I said, I've done this for 26 years. Most people that do a living will pretty much definitively know what they want or don't want in those instances. So most of the time, this portion is left blank. So again, it's optional. I will tell you, if you leave it blank, please write in that line, NA, or not applicable, because you don't want anybody to go behind you and fill that document in with the name that you didn't intend to be there. So I will make that recommendation. There are some, I'll talk about witnesses and things like that. If you or your loved one wants to do this document and you're residing in a hospital or a nursing facility when you execute or complete this document, you have to have one special witness called an ombudsman witness. So it can't just be anybody when you're in that setting. The ombudsman witness, the facility that you're in, whether it's a hospital or nursing facility, that facility has to assist you in identifying and getting that special witness in for you. So when you say, I'm in a hospital, I'd like to do a living will, we hope you've done it before you went. But if you are there and you want to do it while you're there, the hospital or the nursing facility should secure this person. The ombudsman witness, which I am one of, we're trained through the Lieutenant Council, Lieutenant's Government on Aging, and every county has them. So you can make that request and they will come in. That special witness, what their job is, basically, number one, is to make sure you understand the document that you are signing. Number two, that you're not being forced to sign it to receive medical treatment. So they're there for you on your behalf. So that's what they come in for. In a regular community setting, like if you're at home or in an independent living facility, you can have anyone to witness it as long as they meet the requirements that we mentioned earlier. Witnesses have to be 18 or older. They cannot be related to you. They should not be the person you might be naming in a document to make medical decisions for you. And they should not be beneficiaries of life insurance or anything like that, because that's it gets kind of hinky with that. So get somebody to witness it that basically is not related, doesn't have any financial obligation, or would benefit from that financially. This document does have to be notarized to be legal. So 2 witnesses, and it has to be notarized. Now the notary can act as one of those witnesses, so you don't have to have 3 people, you can have 2 people. Any questions about that document? Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one that I gave you, and that is the healthcare power of attorney. Not sure what a healthcare power of attorney. There's a lot of language in it when it first starts out. It's telling you, thinking about naming an agent, witnesses, how to revoke it, and we'll talk about that too when we finish and get through all the documents. But if you go over to page 3 of 7 of that document, that's the meat of it. Now, unlike the living will, the healthcare power of attorney, you can actually name an agent to make healthcare decisions for you. Actually, you can name 3 agents, alternates. And again, just like our attorney before us, I always encourage you to have alternates to this, and I'll explain the reason being. First thing first, anytime you're thinking about an agent, and again, sometimes children, family may not be the best. You want to think about someone, number one, that you trust. Number 2, somebody that you can talk to about what your true wishes are when you're in a medical crisis, when you can't speak for yourself. And number 3, somebody that's willing to do it and willing to uphold what your beliefs are about your health care. Because everybody doesn't believe the way I believe, and it's okay. But you want it to be somebody you trust. And they have to be 18 or older, so they have to be an adult when they do it. The reason I say it's good to have alternates, that too, is because what if your main person dies before you do? Decide, I just can't do this. You need to have an alternate. And with the attorney in the room, I think she can tell you there are 2 little small words, conjunctions, that are very important when you're doing documents, and or. So I have some people, I have 2 children, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So I might say, okay, Jakara and Zaria are those my girls, are my healthcare primary power of attorney. If I say and, well, guess what? Jakara and Zaria have to be there together, and they have to agree. Or, either or. But my suggestion, and again, I'm not telling you how to do the document, my suggestion would be, again, it doesn't have to be children, but choose the child. Sometimes it's the oldest. That's not always the most rational one, though. So choose the one, like that has maybe some medical experience, somebody that's rational, somebody who's comfortable with the decision you're making to do it. And if you have multiple children and you choose your children, list one to be that primary agent, and you have a place for a first and second alternate. It would go through that round if something happens to the people that you named initially. So that's very important. Now, this document also has a HIPAA statement in it, so what that does, your power of attorney, HIPAA, that's the state's Privacy Act, or Federal Law Privacy Act, because medical facilities are not just gonna give out your medical information without a consent, and this does give those people permission to have your medical records, because they can't make a good decision for you if they don't know what's going on, basically. So that gives all that power. So if you go to page 4.7, this document does 3 things. Number 5, there near the bottom of page 4, it talks about organ donation. You can decide if you want to be an organ donor or not. Completely your decision. Put your initial by the appropriate line. May donate, may not donate, whatever your belief is. I will say too, sometimes if they can't get their hands on this document, we all know you can put organ donation on your driver's license as well if you want to be an organ donor. So that's another option. You go to number 6, and it talks about the declaration for desire for a natural death, somewhat like what we just spoke about in the living will, but different. Because with this, in the healthcare power of attorney, you get 3 options. 3 options. The first is talking about what we're going to talk about is life-sustaining treatment, and the other talks about tube feeding again if you want to be fed by artificial means. But I'm going to read this to you so you know what it says. Life-sustaining treatment, I'll talk about 3 options, then I'll tell you. Option 1 is you can grant the discretion to your agent, those persons or people, a person you name to be your agent to make healthcare decisions for you. You can leave the decision of what happens to that person. That means truly you have made a true decision because you can take it on a case-by-case basis, but it states this: I do not want my life to be prolonged, nor do I want life-sustaining treatment to be provided or continued if my agent believes the burden of treatment outweighs the expected benefit. I want my agent to consider the relief of suffering, my personal beliefs, the expense involved, and the quality as well as the possible extension of my life in making the decision concerning life-sustaining treatment. So that kind of gives that agent, think about these things when you make this decision. If you think I'm going to have a good quality of life after all this is over, well, by all means, do what you can. But if you think, I'm just going to be laying in a bed, I'm not going to know who's coming to see me, well, maybe not. So that gives that discretion to your agent for life-sustaining treatment. You can also have that as an option when you're talking about tube feedings as well. Number 2, the next option you have, that might not quite be the one. You might not want to exactly leave it up to the agent because you may already know. And then it may be number 2. This is the directive to withhold or withdraw life-sustaining treatment or tube feedings if you have an irreversible condition that will result in death in a relatively short period of time. So without this treatment, I will pass away soon. Or if you're in that permanently unconscious state, body function, brain's not. Take the treatment away because I don't want to live like that. The last option is a maximum treatment. Do everything you can. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what my quality of life would be. Do everything you can to keep me here. Those are your 3 options when it comes to life-sustaining treatment and tube feeding. That's simple, but not so simple because it does take a lot of thought when you're considering these things. One thing that I will tell you, you may want to talk with you definitely want to talk with your family. Some people want to consult, their church, their pastor when dealing with these things. So, because it is not easy, but if you know what you want, I would say put it in writing now, because think about something happening to you. We could leave out your day, end up in a car accident, not be able to speak for ourselves, and then my children have to decide what would mama want, and I've not had that conversation. That's a terrible place to put our kids or our families. One thing I will say is, again, be careful who you choose, because this is a very important decision. Also, let me just say, just because you do this document now, it's no good until you're unable to make your own decisions. So you can do the document now, but as long as you're able to speak and communicate and you have your right mind, you still make your healthcare power decisions. It doesn't matter who you name. So I get people in my office all the time, I'm Mama's healthcare power of attorney, but yes, Mama's alerted oriented, so that doesn't matter to me because Mama's still making her decision. So they don't like that, but I have to be real with them, you know. So yes, this document is only good when you're incapacitated, can't speak, or have been adjudicated incompetent mentally to make your own decisions. This document requires 2 witnesses. Notary is optional, so it does not have to be notarized. Any questions?
Is there an expiration on this document?
No, there is not an expiration. If you execute it today, it's good unless you make other decisions, and we'll talk about canceling or revoking it. So that's a great question. I will say a lot of people come, they're moving in here from other states, retiring here. Document, you know, if you had it, they may honor it from another state, but I always encourage you, if you're coming from another state, redo your document for the state you're currently in.
And this is just for health care. This is
That's
not
just
for finance.
No, and I'm going to tell you why. I have some of those little cookie cutter documents for financial POAs, but I don't recommend those. See an attorney. Yeah, don't do it. That's why I didn't bring them, because they'll come to my office. Do you have them? Well, yeah, I can pull one up on a computer easily, but I don't recommend it because, you know, it may address everything you need, but the likelihood is it will not. So I would suggest an attorney.
So I do have a question. So
Yes,
once you appoint that person to make a decision, comes down to it, you're on life support, and that person cannot, they just can't make that decision, what happens?
Well, if that person saying, I can't serve as that primary
You know, just
agent.
say, well, no, I can't say full stop, I can't do it.
Then again, your document, if it's all in what you choose, because remember you have 3 options. You can grant the discretion, or you can go ahead and make that decision for yourself that you wouldn't want to live like that, and then there's no decision to be made. Your agent just has to make sure that decision's upheld. So, yeah. And that's again why I say, choose right. Because you don't want to be in choose right. And you don't want to be in that situation. Last document, which I did not give you a copy of, because again, they cost, but I will tell you where you can get it. And I love this document. As a matter of fact, being in healthcare, you know, you see what the living will looks like, you see what the healthcare power of attorney looks like. But the 5 wishes is like a booklet, and it's an awesome document. These people who worked in healthcare, met with Mother Teresa, got together, and they looked at a whole encompassing thing. So for me as a social worker, it makes me excited because it not only addresses healthcare decisions, but it looks at other things like spiritual and emotional needs. So I'm big on that. With the 5 wishes, and I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm gonna just take you through what the 5 are. It kind of looks like this, and it comes in booklet form, and it's really detailed. So if you think a healthcare power of attorney and a living will is hard, I'm gonna get you now for sure, because I actually sat down with one of these documents myself, and I started it, and it's still not finished, and that's been a year or 2 ago. And like I said, I deal with this every day. But in the 5 wishes, it's like a living will on steroids. Again, because it addresses personal, emotional, and spiritual needs as well as medical wishes. In wish 1, you get to appoint an agent, just like your healthcare power of attorney, and you can appoint alternates to make those medical decisions for you. In wish 2, it talks about medical treatments that I do or do not want when I'm close to death. If you're ever in a coma and not expected to recover, or if you have permanent or severe brain damage. All things that can happen to us that we don't like to think about. Also, it gives you some space that you can actually go in and write in other conditions that you may not wish to be kept alive in. So again, this document really makes you sit down and think. Wish 3 talks about when I'm close to death, how comfortable do I want to be? Talks about pain relief. Some people say, you know what, I don't want to hurt, but I want to be able to be alert. I want to still be able to visit with my family. Some people say, oh no, I don't want to hurt, knock me out. So, you know, it's different for everybody. It talks about if the doctors or social workers walk in and note signs of depression, would you want to be treated for depression at that time? If you have a fever, would you want a cool cloth on your head? If you can't eat, do you want your lips kept moist? Do you like warm baths? Do you want a massage? Do you want your favorite music playing?
Massage would be good.
Have you considered hospital services? All of that is in this document. So you see what I mean? It really gets you to think. Which for, how do you want people to treat you when you're close to death? Do you want somebody in there with you? Do you want to die alone? Do you want people holding your hand? Do you want people praying over you? Do you want your church family to know about it? And if so, do you want them just to pray for you at church, or do you want them to come visit you? Would you like to die at home if possible? It addresses all of that. And the last wish, which probably just brings tears to my eyes. I love this, I love what I do, but it talks about what I want my loved ones to know when I'm close to death. I love them. Forgive me for something I might have done wrong. Make up with each other before I leave here, or, as close to my death as possible. It also talks about where you want your remains to go, who has your documents, your funeral arrangements, how you want that to be. All of that is in this document. So it is an awesome document that you can't just sit down and do. I couldn't anyway, overnight. It does require 2 witnesses and a notary. These booklets can be purchased for $5 a copy, and you can call a toll-free number, 1-888-5-WISHES, or 1-888-594-7437, and the local councils on aging usually keep copies of this document as well, so you could get a copy from there, but it would still be $5. Am I in Anderson County?
This is Anderson County right here.
Anderson County, that's Appalachian Council of Governments. They cover Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg, Oconee, and a few others, Spartanburg County. So you can call them, and probably they'll have copies. I know we got a Lawrence County person, that's Upper Savannah Council of Governments out of Greenwood, and they would have copies as well. Last 2 segments about this, and I'm going to get out your way unless you have questions. Once these documents are complete, again, keep it your original in a safe place, but it needs to be somewhere people can get to it. You can put it in a fire-safe, bomb-proof box under your bed, but somebody got to have a key to it and know it's there, or it does you no good. Make sure that your primary care physician has a copy. So anytime you go to a hospital or maybe admitted to a nursing facility, you can share that information with them. Definitely anybody you're appointing as an agent should have a copy of these documents. So have plenty of copies, but make sure you got your original somewhere safekeeping. Revocation or canceling these documents. Every document that I discussed, just because you filled it out, it can still be revoked or canceled, yes. And you would do so by, of course, notifying your doctor, notify the agents that you've named. Your original, you can write revoked in big letters across it, destroy the documents. You can do a letter stating on this date, I revoked my healthcare power of attorney that I executed on May 9th, 2019. Be specific, because you may have more than one. Just make sure you're specific. You can recollect all the copies if you like and just tear them up. But they can be revoked. You can always redo new ones if your thoughts and feelings have changed, because they may, depending on what your age are and what happens in life. But my advice is to please, please, please consider doing these documents. Any questions?
You said it had to have 2 witnesses and what else?
You, on the living will
5 wishes.
and the 5 wishes, you have to have 2 witnesses and a notary. The notary can be one of those witnesses.
And so for this one, you said we can make copies and give to
the 5 wishes you have to purchase. The
our
others you can make copies. Yes.
Yeah. But a will, I have to have the original.
Yeah, I tell people to have copies, and you can give the copies to whoever, but the agent, the person represented with the will, they need the original. Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Thank you.
Stacy got me teary-eyed over
It's hard.
So next we're going to have Gervonte Brown. He is the owner and the life agent of Gervonte Brown and Associates, and he's going to talk about funeral and family services.
Good morning. Good morning. I don't want to be be too long this morning. I want to thank you, Ms. Lewis, for the opportunity to be here to talk to you. I'll give you some good free information. It was an honor to see Ms. Fant come in, just a local young man from Livonia, Georgia. But I keep up with you, and I want to thank you for the hard work and dedication that you are doing for the upstate of South Carolina and fighting for our people and representing us. But it's an honor to be here this morning to share with you all. My name is Gervonte Brown. I'm 29 years old. I'm from the Livonia, Georgia area. I started out in the funeral industry when I was in high school. I started at Max Funeral Home there in Hartwell, Georgia, now which has grew to the Everton location. Mr. Allen Eppinger owner. I got out of the funeral industry for a couple of years after high school and went into just a local retail area, and then went back into it with Milestone O'Neill Funeral Home in Toccoa, Georgia. Left there last October, at the end of October, and began to get out in the community. I got my insurance license in April of 2020, but I got out in the field and started helping seniors and people all over the upstate of South Carolina and Georgia, working with Funeral Advantage through Lincoln Heritage, coming in, helping them set up funeral advantage plans, but also helping them not get cheated and robbed by local funeral homes, but working directly with the funeral directors and helping families set up funeral plans. So I know Miss Adams is coming next. Is that correct? Miss Adams is coming next with insurance, so life insurance. So I like to tell my clients and people that I work with every day, there's a difference in what I do and what the local life insurance agent do. I'm not in competition with your life insurance agent. I'm helping you set up a funeral plan. So whatever else you have in life insurance, the attorney came earlier and said that's left behind for generational wealth or left behind for your estate, more money left behind for your church, nonprofit organizations. I come in and make sure that funeral bill is paid and also that your family is not getting cheated. Because you'll be surprised at how many families are getting cheated with funeral plans, even with cremations, because they have not been educated on it. The first program we offer is called a final expense program. That's regular whole life insurance. It starts from the age of 0 to the age of 85. The second program we offer is a 20-year pay, where in 20 years that policy is paid up and done. Third program we offer, and I love to talk about that third program because it touches home with me, it's a modification program. We call it the modified program. And that's for people who have cancer, heart attack, stroke, like my mom, pulmonary heart disease, chronic conditions, blood thinners. If they've seen a doctor in the last 2 years, took any medication, or been prescribed anything in the last 2 years, they have to go inside of a modification program. Someone may ask, well, Mr. Brown, what is the modification program? The modification program is if they're over 50, they have to go on a 2-year program. Under 50 is a 3-year program. So whatever you pay in to that program, if you die before the 2 or 3 years up, you get all the money back. First year, you get 20% toward the face amount. First year, 20%, second year, 30%, and the third year, you will get 40%. So if you pass away before then, you get all your premiums back, plus those percentages toward your face amount. So we can work with anybody. Only people we cannot work with here in the state of Georgia, and in the state of South Carolina, state of Georgia, is people with HIV and AIDS. North Carolina, I'm not licensed there, but we have agents that are licensed there. If they have HIV, because they're just now state, we have to help them with HIV and AIDS in North Carolina, but we can give them assistance there. So it's a very basic program. Premium start low as $15. I work with people a lot of times now, working with a lot of people with cremations. I worked with a man the other day that was 72 years old. I walked into his house and he said, Mr. Brown, he said, now I live on a fixed income budget. He said, all I want is a cremation directly from my house to the crematory, wherever I pass it. I don't want to have no service. And he said, I'm 72 years old. I said, well, let's sit down and look at some options, see what we can do. Well, we sat down, we got him approved for a $3,000 policy for $22.09 at 72 years old. That's day one coverage. That's not 2 years. That means 3 to 6 business days after he paid that premium, that policy went into effect. So that means now he's running with cash value. That's with cash value. Kids and grandkids under 18 is $2 every 5,000. It covers your grandkids and your kids under 18 till they're 25 years old. They drop off at their 25th birthday. Okay? Accidental death, dismemberment. That's $1 every 5,000. So that's $1 every 5,000 separate from on your policy. So if it's a $10,000 policy, you have $1, that'll make it a $15,000 policy if you die in an accident. So these are funeral advantage plans, but I love working with people in the community, serving my community, serving the people with honesty and respect. Because it's all about working together. But the more people you know, and the more relationships you have with your local funeral homes, that's the better you have, because Lincoln, we offer what we call the FCGS. It's the Funeral Consumer Guard Society. And what we do is, we help you, I gave out some literature that we help you put it's not a will, I let people know it's not a will, it's just an outline of things that you want done in your service, how you want things honored, how you want things carried out, and we have that on file. But FCGX do a price check. So if a family come in from, let's say Westminster, the Johnson family from Westminster, and let's say they say, Mr. Brown, we know that we have $10,000, and we want a traditional funeral. My father wants a traditional funeral. When they tell me, well, I ask them, what funeral home do your family normally use? And they say, we normally use Gilbert's Mortuary there in Center. I say, okay, that's good. What we do is FCGS then will contact they will contact Adams, they will contact Marcus D. Brown, and they will probably contact Unity. And what they do a price check. We ask, we let them know we have a family here that wants a traditional burial. We want to know if you can do it for $6,000. So we get a price from Marcus. Marcus may say 6. Adams may say 7, Unity may say 8. What we do is we go back to that beneficiary and the one that's handled the arrangements. We let them know, we understand your loyalty to Mr. Gilbert, but at this time we have found someone that can do it for a cheaper price. Would you like to negotiate? If they say yes, they would like to negotiate. If they say they would like to pick Marcus D. Brown, we lock in a binding contract with Marcus. But Marcus cannot renege on your family. That's a locked-in contract. Okay, so what that does is we get that contract signed with Marcus, then Marcus can make the removal. What we do then is, that saved that family how many thousands of dollars? If the funeral, if they had 10,000, how much that saved? Okay, and that money, then what we do is we let them go in with the final wish book, and they go in and get a bill, and things they want done. Then they go to the bank, and they get a cashier check or money order, and go pay the funeral. They do not take the policy to the funeral home. The funeral director don't need your policy. He don't even know how much your policy for. So you walk in paying him, getting a receipt, and it's paid for. And the rest, 7, 8, 9, 10, you say what, $4,000? $4,000 is yours to do whatever you want to do with it. So it's very important that you know those kind of things when you deal with funeral advantage, that you're not letting people take an advantage of you. The things are done in decency and in order. And also that when you go in to make arrangements, whatever your funeral home is, it's important that you keep updated, the updated general price list. General price list, they have to give you a general price list. That's state law. Every funeral home in the state of South Carolina has to give you a general price list if you request it. That means by walking into the firm, or it also means by calling over the telephone. The funeral rule of 1984, they cannot reject you from ordering a casket from Walmart, delivering that casket to the funeral home. That's a law. You do not have to buy the casket from your local pauper. You can order it online, which is cheaper. Ship it to the funeral home and bury it. They cannot reject it. That's the funeral rule of 1984. And I work with my clients, so my clients do not get robbed. We're not against the funeral home, but we are all for helping the family for the option. So you do not have to buy the casket from your local pauper. You can do it online and get it shipped there to the funeral home. Do anybody have any questions?
What's the website?
Ma'am?
Website.
The website for
What you talking about?
the caskets?
Amazon.
Walmart. Amazon. Any online. You can go through a funeral. You can go through the funeral showroom wherever they get the caskets from. You can order from there and get it shipped on your behalf to the funeral home. So Walmart sell caskets. Amazon, all different type of sources online to sell it. But you can get a shipment.
Get like a digital.
I don't know about Amazon, but I'm pretty sure if they have it, probably still will be soon. And also that's for urns. Urns too. You can buy your own urn. And what I directly let families know too that I work with in South Carolina and Georgia, if you're doing cremation, I advise my clients, now working against, if you are going to do a direct cremation and have a memorial service, it's best, with funeral advantage, it's best that you get the body cremated, whatever parlor you want to, if you're going to get an urn up, but if you're going to do a memorial service, do it on your own. Do it on your own. Don't allow the funeral home to do your memorial service. That's extra money you're paying. Go to your local church. I know they'll let you have your service there for free. You get your own obituaries made, and that saves you a lot of money. You can get cremations done under $1,000. Do price check when you do cremations. I know you have local parlors that you may be faithful, committed to, but when you're looking at cremation charges, you can get a cremation done under $1,000. And then you can have the service. Now you can get an urn, you can order your own urn or go to the funeral home, but you can have your own service on your own. That will save you thousands of dollars. And you can also get your death certificates through the funeral home, 1 or 2, and then you can go back to probate on your own and get death certificates whenever you want to. And like the attorney said, that's public records. So, and most people are on a gather system where you can get those at your local probate court. Any more questions?
So
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned if someone had cancer, they could still get a final policy, but there's a waiting period or something? What is that?
Yes, there's a waiting period. If they're over 50, there's a 2-year waiting period. If they're under 50, they're 3-year. But it's really not a waiting period. It's just going downhill. But what it does is if they die before the 2 years, they will get a certain percentage. They will get 30% of the face amount. They get all their premiums back what they paid in, even with cancer. They'll get all the premiums they paid in monthly plus that percentage. Any more questions?
You said that for children, it falls off at the age of 25. So what happens once they turn 25? They have to get their own policy?
That's right, they can get their own policy at 18 for a real low price. For real low. And these policies build cash value. So that's what directly I work with my clients on because, a lot back when I was a kid, grandma had a policy on everybody. Well, with that policy sitting there, as you said earlier about the beneficiary and things like that, grandma had a policy on everybody. So they buy these policies when they're real young. So then they build cash value and things like that. So when they take them, I work with my seniors, they get them on their grandkids. I try to get them on a 20-year back. It costs a little bit much more, but in 20 years it's paid up. So if something happened to grandma down the road, that policy still paid up. Yes, ma'am. So it won't be just going paying insurance and being all the money they put in is wasted. Because a lot of people pay the insurance and then grandma died, which is the breadwinner. Most times people don't want to talk about that, but a lot of the grandparents are the breadwinners because they're the ones making sure things are happening for the family. When they die, we don't have no information what the insurance policies are or other companies because back when I was a kid, grandma them loved mailing in payments every month. They didn't do direct deposit or sending off, paying over the card. So we didn't have accurate record of where they were sending these payments to and what was in effect. Insurance has been wasted, money been wasted. So it's very important. I work with my seniors on getting set up through their bank account, especially some high rates of dementia. Kids come home, names are on those accounts. They can go into that branch and see what company they're paying to every month and can be in cahoots with that company. So things can be done in decency and in order. Yes, ma'am.
Because now I'm thinking, with all of this stuff, where I don't have to get a casket at the funeral home and stuff. So now I'm just thinking about stuff. Do you have to have well, I know you have to be there, but do you have to have a funeral?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's your choice. That's what funeral managers do. We're here to give information to the community because a lot of people are not knowledgeable in the funeral industry. That's not taking advantage of your funeral directors. That's not calling nobody out. But no, ma'am, you don't have to have a service. We have an all green burial. Green burial is where naked I came, naked I shall return. They bury you in a box. It's a special cemetery they offer. It's all green burial. You don't have to have a casket. You can be all green burial. It's different options, but no, ma'am, you don't have to have a funeral. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any more questions? Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have information, and I would love to come and talk. And no matter if you get insurance, and I still would like to come talk to families so they can be informed on the different options and things they have. And especially working with seniors, because we will be amazed at how many seniors live in senior homes, and I mean not senior homes where they're administrative drugs, but where they're living in senior homes where they have no family. And people they've been taken advantage of. And especially, let me say this with these GoFundMes, be careful when you donate money to these GoFundMes. You need to be informative. If find out what parlor the body is at, who has the body, and go there and make your donation to the director on behalf of the family. Be careful when you donate money to these GoFundMes, because anybody can make a GoFundMe, but that's not a guarantee that the funeral home or wherever the money's going is going to be given to that proper price. So make sure you're very informed of what's going on before you give your funds to these people. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless you, and may God continue to keep you.
Before we get started, we're going to do a quick change in the agenda. I'm going to ask my sister, Freedom Fighters, Ms. Traci Fant, to come up to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
And also, it's funny you talking about ordering your casket. I know my husband is going to probably have some kind of personalized or customized casket with some speakers in it, something like that when he goes. So we're going to start working on that. Well, I want you to speak on, I know you've experienced, my goal is not to have any GoFundMes. Like, I'm sick and tired of seeing GoFundMes. And I know that you work with a lot of families where people are getting killed, Yeah, and they don't have insurance and things like that, so this is not how
I'm really shy in real life, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, I appreciate, Julie doing this, putting this together. This is very important. And with everything in life, education is key, I'm also a life insurance agent. I sell life insurance, and that's my hashtag, no more GoFundMe. Because I think there's so many families who are in an unfortunate time in their lives where they've lost a loved one. And usually, it's a young person. And so I tell families all the time, I know how difficult it is to discuss life insurance, especially on the child. All my children are covered with life insurance, all my grandchildren, even the smaller babies, they're now 9 months old, but we got life insurance policies on them when they were newborns. It's a very difficult thing to even think about. However, children die. We die. We're not gonna live forever. That's unfortunate, but it's true. And so it's all about being prepared. And not only that, like I said, being educated. Although I sell life insurance, I don't know everything that I want to know about it. So I attend things like this so that I can learn more. This is all about advancing your knowledge in anything that you're doing. And so although, I sell life insurance, I'm an advocate, I'm an activist, I do all this stuff, I'm a consultant. Anytime there's an opportunity for me to sit in the room and be educated, I take that, and I run with it, because I truly believe that continuing education is key to anything that you do in life, especially if you're known to do things in the community, be an influencer. I can't influence you to purchase something that I have absolutely no idea about. And so, the first attorney that got up, that was making a lot of key points about wills. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I'm glad I came. And then the other young lady who just talked to us, a lot of things that she emphasized on, some of the stuff I definitely didn't know. So I truly appreciate that. And like I said, Julie, this is phenomenal that you put this together. Some people were scared of the title. They're like, oh my God, it's called, what's the name?
End of life preparation.
Yeah, end of life preparation. They were like, why she name it end of life? Because you ain't gonna live forever. Like, you gotta prepare for the end of your life. And whether that's, like I said, a young person who gets shot on the street corner, who's on life support, and his family's trying to figure out, like, do we keep this going? To a young person who was overdosed on fentanyl and they're on life support, someone that's incarcerated, it's all kind of different things. Unfortunately, if you're incarcerated, you can't get life insurance. A lot of people reach out to me, from prison or their loved ones, they want to get them covered on life insurance while they're in prison or while they're incarcerated. You can't get insurance on that I know of, unless somebody knows something different. Do you know?
Say again. That can, but you got to take it to them so they can sign it.
Okay, life insurance if they're incarcerated.
It's going to be great. Yes, the great is different kind of company. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So like I said, so a lot of companies won't do it if you're incarcerated, especially if it's like a life sentence. I'm talking about So, but anyway, like I said, Julie, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate the invite, as well. She asked me when she was putting everything together if I wanted to say something. I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate everyone that attended as well. You're putting together something that educates us. A lot of times people just don't want to show up. It's not a lot of rah-rah behind it or whatever. Education sucks. Reading sucks and all that stuff. Continuing education sucks, but it's a necessity in life that we continue to be educated and educate others. And so this information right here, if we take it out and we spread it among the masses, I think that's very important. Like she said earlier about the land, when you was like, they can take our land?
Yeah, they don't think that.
Right. I hate when people say, oh, they took our land. I'm like, no one can take anything from you. You just have to understand ownership. That's a whole different seminar, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm gonna get me some water. I appreciate you.
All right, so we have our final speaker. Her name is Miss Andreana Adams. I love this little lady here. We used to work together at Windstream and have fun and look. laugh to keep from crying. So, she's gonna get up now and speak about life and health insurance. And she did leave working for the man and started doing her own insurance thing. You've been doing it now, what about?
Been full time.
Oh, dang, I forgot to say that. I left working for the man too.
Right.
I did too. I left the BMW slave ship. Plantation, that's really what it is.
Hey everybody. I'm Andreana Adams. You can call me Andreana. I had the pleasure of meeting another Andreana today. And so I want to say thank you to Julie, to my friend and sister for giving me the opportunity to share today. And I have learned so much as well. I learned so much knowledge and understanding today. And we perish for lack of knowledge, right? So I'm happy to be here. I wore this shirt. I thought it would be appropriate. Got insurance because a lot of us don't have insurance, and then our families are left there trying to figure out how to wear this, how to get closure, how to take care of everything. So, just a little bit about me. I know it says life and health. I got to putting this slide together, and I didn't even have enough space to talk about health because I'm just that passionate about the side of life insurance. So just a little bit about me. My name is Andreana Adams. I am born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina. I am 50 years old. I'll be 51 in December. I am married for 18 years. Have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. Two of those 8, my husband and I are raising for the past 3.5 years. So that's why I was asking you that question. So let's see. So before I start on the next slide, I just want to talk about why I started doing insurance. I've always been an advocate of it. My husband's mom passed away in 2011 and didn't have me. My husband was the only child, so that burden fell completely on us. And we really had to borrow money from my parents and make arrangements for the balance. I remember the day of the funeral. I'm like you. Our living room was a print shop. I was printing obituaries. I'm like, we're not paying for that. We're not paying for this. So, did that and got a phone call the day of the funeral saying, hey, we need $300 so we can put the tent and the chairs out. You know, and I'm like, I didn't even tell him that. I was just like, I'll go and I'll get it over there. So I'm very passionate about it. I am licensed for South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, soon to be Texas. And I write for about 30 carriers. So I am able to help people that have HIV or AIDS as well. So that's that. I'm going to touch briefly on health insurance. So I've been licensed in life insurance since 2013. Decided to get a Medicare license in 2019 because my parents were starting to retire. And I didn't want any agent coming to just try to sell them something that was not the best fit for their healthcare needs. And I'm very passionate about seniors. I love them. I laugh. I learn something every day. And it's very important. There are some agents that they're just going there trying to make a sale, but are you taking the time to go through their doctors, all of their doctors and their prescriptions to be sure that the plan you're putting them in is the best fit for them? And so it's ministry for me, so I'm very passionate, and so I take time and I go through all of that stuff. I will answer the same question 10 times until you understand the difference in the max out of pocket and a deductible, because a lot of people don't. So I love doing that. Also, I'm able to write ACA plans for several carriers. And so open enrollment for ACA, Affordable Care Act, is November the 1st through January the 15th. If you need a health care plan effective January the 1st, we need to get it in by December 15th. If we get it in by January the 15th, then it will start February the 1st. Just wanted to put that out there. Annual enrollment for Medicare is getting ready to start next week, October 15th through December 7th. I have members. I'm with United Healthcare solely on the Medicare side. I have members in Anderson County, Pickens, Oconee, Abbeville, Spartanburg, and Greenville counties. And I would pretty much drive anywhere that car takes me. So, and because I'm very passionate about it, there are so many people. Just a little short story. I have been trying to set an appointment with a lady that I got a contact for. Miss Ursula's just turning 65 in November. And when I first called her, she was waiting on her Medicare card to come. So we canceled appointments twice. And I called her back. Hey, Miss Ursula, just following up. She said, I just bought a supplement from another lady over the phone. She was pushy and I just got tired of. And I said, let me ask you this question. I said, why did you decide to go with the supplement? And she said, I don't know. I just didn't know. And I said, well, what I want to do is come out there and just compare plans. And if that supplement is a good fit for you, I won't touch it. If it's not, I want to put you in the best position for you. So she said, okay, come on. When I got there, she appreciated it. This lady is living on $1,000 a month. The supplement is going to be $108 a month. They're taking Part B premium is $170 a month, $170.10. In 2023, it will go down to $164.40, so that's good. But then when she has that supplement, she's going to have to pay. So she's paying the Part B premium $170, she's paying the supplement that's $108, and then she's got to have a prescription plan. That may be about $40 a month, and then she's still paying for the prescriptions inside of that prescription plan, and then she's got to have a dental plan and a vision plan. That other agent told her over the phone that they did not even think to ask her, you know, about your income. And I said, did you go to the doctor a lot? No, I just go to my primary care doctor twice a year. In Advantage plans, the primary care doctor is no cost. You know, so, and she said, thank you so much for being persistent. And it's not that I wanted to sell, because I would have easily said, keep your supplement, but it's ministry for me. Like, I want to help people. So I'm very passionate about what I do. So that's a little bit on the health insurance and on the Medicare side. And I had to jot down some little index cards, because I know me, I'll get the rambling off, so I have to keep myself reeled in. Julie, do I just go to the next slide? Am I just hitting enter?
You press the arrow.
Okay, help me, honey. Okay, thank you.
You want to make it bigger? So.
Can y'all see that? That's okay. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you. Listen, I'm not technically inclined. I have adult children and a teenage daughter, so if I can't, and I'm proud of myself in this PowerPoint because I was doing this on my own. My daughter was asleep, and so I wasn't going to say, can you come help me with this? So I pulled it out. It may be a little boring. I couldn't add in no clip art or nothing like that, but I got everything on there. So the types of life insurance, there are different types, but the types that I offer term life, whole life, final expense, universal life, index universal life, and annuities. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to my friend and sister back there, Tammy. So Tammy's son, James, very near and dear to my heart. He passed away some years ago, and he was an agent on my team. And when I tell you this young man was very passionate, I know you don't mind, he had tumors. He fought with this thing for 4 years, and never missed a meeting, never missed a conference. And I said, I don't want to hear anybody's excuses, because he went until he really couldn't go anymore. You know, so it's good to see you. I love you.
That's why
So,
you're fun.
I love y'all. So just a little bit about term life. I'm just going to tell you the differences, because a lot of people don't understand the differences in insurance. And when I go to people and they say, I need a quote, I'm like, okay, hold up. What type of insurance are you looking for? What do you want the policy to do for you? Tell me about your health. Are you a smoker or non-smoker? Do you have health issues taking a prescription? Because I can't just give you a quote
until I ask questions about you. So term life provides temporary coverage for a certain length of time, often between 10 and 30 years. And then term life typically ends if you outlive the term. Some carriers do offer a return of premium, which means at the end of that term, rather than your policy going away, you have the option to either get back all of the premiums that you paid into the policy, or you can purchase a paid up policy. So normally if people request a term, I do offer or suggest that option. If not, you're gonna be 30 years old, you're gonna be starting over. Unless you have the money saved or Mr. Brown has put something in place to pay for your funeral. You're gonna be starting over now you're 30 years old. Whole life policies have a maturity date or end date. They build, hold on, okay. I went to number 2 first. So whole life provides permanent coverage for the life of the insured as long as the premiums are paid on time. Whole life builds cash value, and the cash value typically starts to build within 2 to 5 years. Okay. And then now whole life policies do have a maturity date. And a lot of people don't understand what that is. So what that is an end date, which means if you outlive that maturity date, then they normally give you a lump sum back. A lot of the maturity dates are between 95 and 121 years. So if the maturity end date on whole life policy is 95 years and 95 comes and you're still alive, then that company should be giving you back or paying the face amount for that policy because it's reached its maturity date and you're still alive. So if that happens, you can put that up, and so now when you do pass away, then you know it's already taken care of. So that's whole life. Final expense, it is a type of whole life policy, and Mr. Brown talked about this. Final expense is a type of whole life insurance that alleviates the burden on your family by covering funeral costs and other expenses left behind by the deceased, like medical bills or credit card bills, you know, anything like that. Now, a lot of times, hold on, let me read my chicken scratch here. I'm trying to read my own writing. Do that ever happen to y'all?
Yes.
What am I supposed to say? Give me a minute. A lot of times people are paying for policies and they don't know what they have. I have gone to houses and, I'm paying $10 for $200,000. Let me see that policy. And a lot of times they're paying for accidental death policy and they don't know it. And then, so that's basically, if your death is not accidental, then that policy is not paying out. And so when I go into homes, you know, I build a rapport with people to where they can trust me so they don't have a problem when I say, let me see that policy, you know. Because I'm not a salesperson. I don't like putting myself I don't like that title because it's ministry for me and I like to help and serve. So I would genuinely say, keep this policy, don't let nobody come change it. Even if I don't, I'm like, don't let anybody touch this policy. But if I look at it and I don't, you know, and I can see that it's not a good policy, then I will say that. So that's that. One other thing I want to say, you get a lot of cards in the mail. YouTube Omaha sends out a lot of them. I write for them, but I write a lot of products for them. But people will get a card in the mail that says guaranteed insurance coverage, modified grade. They don't know that. I tell people, do not buy anything over the phone or through a commercial unless somebody put eyes on you. Because you can be healthy as an ox, and that policy is not paying out in the first 2 or 3 years, you know? So anytime I call somebody and they say, I have it taken care of, I'm saying, wonderful, well, who did you take it out with? You know, does it say this, does it say that? And I'm not saying it to be nosy. I'm really concerned because my husband's mom passed away, you know, and I'm like, I don't want to see anybody stuck without having insurance in place. So now on to Universal Life. So it offers lifelong coverage as well, and it provides flexibility when it comes to paying premiums and choices for how cash value is invested. Universal Life is often compared to whole life insurance, but it is less expensive and offers more policy options. You can use cash value to pay a portion or the entirety of the premium, but now keep in mind that if the policy will lapse if that cash value has reached zero. Okay, and a lot of people just don't know that. So, and then index Universal Life. Now, a lot of people index Universal Life. I'm going to use your thing. It's like a Universal Life policy on steroids, if I can borrow that from you. So a lot of people use these type policies to prepare for retirement or to like build businesses or different things like that. They build interest, but they build compound interest, which means the interest gains interest. So a lot of our wealthy, those 1% and 2%ers, they build their wealth inside of life insurance. It's not inside of 401k plans or 403bs. So, and so there's that. IULs are tax-free. You know, as long as they're structured right, they can be tax-free, and it's a good way to pass on an inheritance to your family. Annuities, lastly, this is the last piece that I'm going to touch on. Annuities can add growth potential and guarantee income to your retirement strategy. They can help provide a secure retirement while further growing your nest egg. The types of plans that you can roll over into a life insurance annuity is a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, or a lump sum pension. So, and the type that I write, they're fixed, so they're safe from the market, which means if the market goes up, they get a gain. If the market goes down, it stays the same. Okay, so we call that safe money. So it's kind of based in the market a little bit, but it doesn't depend on the market, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. So now I want to talk about the importance of life insurance. So life insurance provides money, or what's known as a death benefit, to your chosen beneficiary after you die. I'm going to pause right there. I heard this a couple times. You do not want to name a beneficiary that's not yet 18 years old. Okay? I have people, I wanted to go to my granddaughter. How old's your granddaughter? She's 4. No, ma'am. I need someone that's at least 18. Another thing that I do is I always suggest, and I kind of like make them think, I need a contingent. Because if that beneficiary passes away, then that money's going to sit there. And it may end up in probate. Yeah. So, always a contingent beneficiary. And then thirdly, you always want to put the beneficiary as revocable. If y'all get to arguing and you don't want to leave it to them anymore, if you put them as irrevocable, you have to ask them for permission to take them off of your life insurance policy. They're not going to give you permission to take them off of your life insurance policy. So now, and then I put here, let's face it, life happens every day. It's not if, it's when. Okay? Someone very near and dear to me, I was out of town training for 5 days, and I got back Monday night, and so Tuesday, she called me and said, hey, I need some sister time. It's not uncommon for us to call each other up and we meet for dinner or lunch or breakfast. And we ate and we laughed as normal. We talked and we shared stories, and then she grabbed her hands and said, I'm going to try not to get emotional. I think I got some more out yesterday. And she was like, you know I love you. And I said, yeah, I love you too. She said, you know, I'm happy to be your big sister. I said, I'm happy. And she had just told me that now she's officially in a relationship. So I'm thinking she's about to say, I'm about to get married and I want you to be my matron of honor. She says I have breast cancer and it's stage 3. And so at that moment I felt so helpless, but I've talked to her several times about life insurance. And she's never taken it out. I've been an insurance agent since 2013. She has insurance at work, and I'm gonna touch on that too, but she doesn't have anything outside of work. So the best time to get insurance is when you're young and when you're healthy. Okay. So it is extremely important to have life insurance that you own in addition to what you have on your job. I'm not saying don't have it at work, because a lot of times they pay for it. If you do have to pay for it, it's pennies because it's inside of a group policy, but it's very good to have a policy that you own. In most cases, when your employment ends with a company, so does your insurance. So there are very few companies that will allow you to take it with you, but then that premium skyrockets because now you're no longer a part of that group coverage. And so I'm touching on what you said, Mr. Brown. So this is not your parents' and grandparents' life insurance. I remember being a little girl and the insurance men would come around to the houses every Saturday morning, knocking on the door to collect premium. And I remember when my grandmother passed away, she had policies that they may have been worth a couple $1,000s or maybe hundreds, and you had to die for those policies to do anything for you. Well, today, most life insurance policies offer living benefits, so that if the insured becomes critically, or terminally ill, they can access a portion of the policy while they're still alive. So, and a lot of policies do that. So a lot of times too, if I talk to somebody and they say, I have my policy, I've had it a long time. I'm like, well, is it the old kind or the new kind? So, and they like, what do you mean the new kind? So I just kind of schedule an appointment and then we go out and compare. Because what I hate is for them to have been paying on something for so long and then they get it and then it's not working, and then some policies, they decrease over time. They start to drop. So it could have started out at $50,000 and now it's at $10,000 or $20,000, they don't know. So, now, reasons people don't have life insurance. And I wanted to put something over here, y'all, but I couldn't figure out how to get it. I found it. That's just going to be empty. I can't figure it out. I clicked, and I was like, never mind. So, reasons people don't have life insurance, and these are some excuses I've heard. I don't need it, or I can't afford it. I'm healthy. The person I met with was healthy until she got her news on September 29th that you have stage 3 breast cancer. And she had just told me about a month ago she went for her physical, and apparently the doctors didn't pick up anything because they told her, you're healthy as a horse. And she felt good about that. And then now she's being shot down to say, hey, you have this. I have too many other things to worry about right now. I don't understand it. And a lot of people don't understand it. So that's why it's our job to educate people. And then it makes me think about death. It's supposed to. Because death is going to happen. So. And now 46%. So today, only 46% of middle income, which are those between the ages of 25 and 64, I think all of us may fall into that, mostly all of us, with salaries ranging from $35,000 to less than $100,000 annually, have individual life insurance policies. About 1 in 4 have no life insurance coverage at all, and about 60 are enrolled in group plans on their job. So. And then, since Judy said she want to stop these GoFundMes, stop GoFundMe. It is not life insurance. I hate saying that, especially if I talk to you. about insurance and you didn't take it and now you're doing GoFundMe's. I'm like, come on, people. So, and then I wanted to leave this quote here. You don't buy life insurance because you're going to die, but because those you love are going to live. And so you don't want to leave a burden.
Amen.
And now, my hope today is that I've helped you think a little deeper about the importance of life insurance. And I do have some cards over here. I have my life insurance card, and then on the back it puts everything that I offer. I can also do hospital and dignity plans, dental, vision, and hearing plans, cancer, stroke, heart attack policies, different things like that. I also have prescription cards, which is comparable to GoodRx, but then some premiums, some prescriptions are a little cheaper on these cards. And so I brought some of those to share, and then my Medicare card. So, does anyone have any questions?
I would like to say you did good on this last presentation, on the last slide.
That picture was already right.
Oh, okay.
Don't you do, my friend? Because next time I'm gonna help her.
Listen, I was not going to ask you that. I am that last minute friend to say, Julie, I need a birthday banner. Julie, I need this, I need that. And she'd be like, I'll go get you. I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. And then she always comes through for me. So I wasn't going to ask her to help me with this slide.
Don't worry about your information was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
My friend Karen, she's got to go to work. She works for the man, so she needs your package.
Get free, baby.
But I want to thank everybody. Thank y'all so much for coming out. You took the time, like I said, you can stay in your bed. I can rest on the rest of the day. Thank y'all so much. Eva, my co-worker, I want to say thank you for coming. Have a good one. Cousin Tammy, which Drina knows Tammy. Cousin Tammy, my neighbor Miss Bessie, all my New Life for Christ Church family, Nick, Jeff, my husband, of course.
Coco,
my hairdresser, been doing my hair for 10 plus years. I don't know. But I've been doing it for 20 years. 20,
Yeah.
I don't know.
25.
Shawan, classmate. I've been knowing her for 30-something years. 30-something years. Miss Traci Fant, we've been in the streets, in the trenches together for 10 years. I don't know how many years. 12, 13, something like that. You've been a visit. Yes. Thank you, Miss Tate. Thank you for coming. Thank you for